Vampire Survivors is 2.5 years old at this point. It's had numerous free content updates and 5 DLCs so far. Now they just recently dropped a 6th DLC called Emerald Diorama, which is another crossover DLC. This DLC is connected to the SaGa series of games, but unlike the previous crossover DLCs, I don't really know much about the SaGa series, so I'm just mainly coming at this from the Vampire Survivors fun aspect of it. I also want to say up front that this isn't going to be a hard DLC to recommend, because unlike any of the other DLCs released for Vampire Survivors, the Emerald Diorama DLC is completely free. Now, I still plan on letting you know what's been added and if I think it's worth playing, but with no barrier to playing it yourself, I honestly just recommend that you give it a try yourself and see what you think. With these two omissions out of the way, let's take a look at what this DLC adds to the game and what I think about it. While much of what the Emerald Diorama DLC adds will be very familiar to anyone who has played previous DLCs for the game, there are some interesting differences. In most DLCs, the new map is usually just added to the list of levels, and you can easily jump into it from the start. That's not how things work here. Instead, you'll have to find an item called the Emerald Disc, which is sold for 50,000 gold coins in Moonglow. The map itself is called Emerald Diorama and is kind of interesting. It's not nearly the size of the Ode to Castlevania map, but is 6 small maps all connected to a hub. You start in the Miyako City map, and after defeating bosses using a variation of the large red circle seen previously, you will unlock the other portals. Like the Ode to Castlevania map, your progress will be saved, and you will have all the portals you unlocked available. Also, after reaching the hub, you will start there in future plays of the map instead of Miyako City. Emerald Diorama adds 16 new base weapons and a new weapon selector to the already packed arsenal of Vampire Survivors. There are thankfully no extra passives in the DLC that you need for evolving, but there are a number of weapons that can evolve twice, which isn't something we've seen a lot of in the past, but isn't completely new either. Many of the weapons in the DLC also have the unique ability to glimmer, which, after looking it up, is a mechanic from the SaGa series. Glimmer means that your weapons have the ability to learn a special move, or tech as it's referred to in the game. This isn't part of the normal attack, but will fire off as its own attack every once in a while, and it'll be displayed on the right side of the screen when it happens. Each evolution stage of a weapon can learn a new tech as well, giving you a wide variety of skills that can be added if you have multiple weapons with the glimmer ability. There are also 16 new characters added in the DLC as well. 12 of these are done through the unlock screen and 4 are considered secret characters. A number of these heroes interact with the glimmer mechanic, but there are also other unique aspects to these characters. The first is that some characters have companions. Tsunanori can have up to 4 different companions after reaching a high enough level. Bonnie and Formina come as a pair, regardless of who you're picking as your main person, and there is even a character that can cause defeated monsters to join you as followers. The second interesting aspect of characters is that many of them have the ability called Showstopper. Showstopper basically gives you a burst of power in various circumstances, the most common being when your health is low, but there are a few other ones that do it like when you revive or things like that. Your attacks will have reduced cooldowns and more power, and this I found very helpful to get yourself out of dangerous situations. Lastly, with some of these characters, you can change what their starting weapon is and also make it so they don't get followers or companions. This isn't completely new, but this is used to get access to certain weapons for the first time, which I don't think has been done before. Usually it's a new character that will unlock a new weapon and not the same character unlocking multiple weapons. There is even a character that has like 6 different skins, and they all have different stats and passive abilities. Most of these have the same starting weapon, but one variant does have a completely different weapon as well. There were just a bunch of little fun flourishes on characters that were different in this DLC and kind of a neat little addition to see. Now, often my question at this point is about whether you should buy the DLC or not. With Emerald Diorama, this isn't really applicable. The DLC is free to purchase, so my focus is going to be on whether it is worth your time or not. Did I enjoy the DLC overall? If you're a big Vampire Survivors fan like I am, the simple answer will be, of course it's worth your time. There is more to unlock and discover, and that's always enjoyable in a game like this. The more complex answer is yes, but the experience isn't without some flaws. Even though I understood the reason behind it, I wasn't a big fan of locking the DLC from the start and requiring you to find the Emerald Disc to enter the stage associated with the DLC. The weapons were also overall good, but I felt like many, if not all, of the new weapons were slow to feel powerful. This made the early game feel a bit more difficult, but then having the late game be no problem at all with all of the glimmer attacks and fully powered weapons by that point. This wasn't too much of a problem when playing normally, but to unlock certain characters you needed to defeat bosses on inverse mode, often with certain characters from the DLC, which was quite a bit more difficult to pull off when the early weapons didn't feel very powerful. Once you got past like the 10 to 15 minute range in the level, things evened out a little bit more, I thought, and it felt a lot better, oftentimes ending with not having any problem at all, but just it made for some rocky starts. The characters were also a bit mixed for me. I liked the showstopper mechanic a number of the characters had, and that helped me survive many times early on in the level when I was struggling. What I was more mixed on was the follower mechanics with some of the heroes. Some just felt super weak and were constantly dying, and I didn't feel like they always did a lot. The combo of Bonnie and Formina led to a very powerful ending to a stage, but since you took turns leveling each of them up, it felt like it took a while to build up to a stable place. Sometimes there were also glitches with things like a follower picking up hearts, but then just having them float around them and not actually ever being collected. I'm not sure if it was just a visual glitch or if I just didn't get those pickups, but either way, it wasn't great and was kind of distracting sometimes. Now, none of these things are terrible by any means. They're just some things that I felt made the experience a little more difficult or unnecessary. Now, even the feeling of increased difficulty, I have some mixed thoughts on. While this felt a bit more difficult to unlock the characters by having to play inverse mode multiple times, there was also a sense of accomplishment when I did it. Although I must admit to playing endless for the quest to kill every boss, I just didn't want to have to fail that by running out of time before hitting all the different bosses, especially with the inverse mode also being on. Overall though, the Emerald Diorama DLC is worth looking into. I don't know the SaGa series enough to appreciate the connections to the series or to comment on how well they integrated those connections to the series, but it's fun to see the different mechanics for the characters and the weapons, and while it maybe pales in comparison to a DLC like Ode to Castlevania, it's also a free DLC. And in my opinion, you can't really go wrong with free and more Vampire Survivors.